Hey everyone, it's Mackenzie with Arranging Sunlight. I want to talk to you all about vases. So you might have a lot of these vases. These are really typical when you get arrangements from florists. Maybe you have kind of like those bud vases, or you have your mason jars that are always fun to have around the house. But you really like the way these vases look, or maybe you have this fun one too. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about how you choose a vase and what that makes when you choose the right vase, okay? So let's start with our typical vase that we get from a florist. These are really great vases because they have a wide top, so you can fit a lot of great flowers in there. It's also angled, which we kind of love because we don't want our flowers just to go up and down, right? So we love this, but one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that when you choose this vase, break the line of the vase. And what I mean by that is I want your flowers, whether it's a flower or a piece of greenery, I want it to go below this vase line right here. Break the line of the vase so you have beauty on top, but a little bit hanging out on the bottom. The next one we're going to choose is the mason jar. I love these. These are great for the flowers that you pick out in your garden or in your flower beds that you want to enjoy a little bit longer. They typically are really great for those shorter stems, or maybe you got some flowers and not all of them have wilted. So you can add a lot of value to a smaller vase like this by taking out those little flowers that still have a little bit of life left. One of the things to keep in mind when you're designing or adding flowers to a mason jar like this is that you don't want your flowers to be way too tall. You really want to imagine that if you had another mason jar, that it would sit right on top, and that would be the height of your tallest flower. So really keep in mind the length of your stems and make sure they kind of are in this range of this height and no taller. You also want to make sure that you have flowers that hang out towards the bottom as well. Again, we want to make sure that there's unity and there's not this, difference between the really tall heights and the smaller vase jar. And greenery is beautiful in this, and a little bit of focal flowers like this nice rose or a carnation, or maybe you grow hydrangeas. This is a great option, but when you cut your hydrangeas, if you really are sad about cutting the length of those stems, you want to make sure you choose the shorter stems for this one. Save those long stem hydrangeas for a taller vase. Bud vases are great. I really love them for singular flowers. When, again, we're saving flowers that are still looking their best and you want to enjoy their beauty for a little bit longer. But depending on your bud vase, it can kind of take away from the flower like this one. So think about your bud vases. Think about the height of your stem that you're doing. This is a really fun height. I do like having bud vases with more than one stem. 2 to 3 is a really beautiful number. I like one low, maybe a little bit taller, maybe one hanging out in the middle. Or if this is a really tall vase, you could go as high as this and still have something really beautiful. So keep in mind when you buy a bud vase, think about what does your typical stem length look like. We don't want to lose value because, it's just really too short. So I want to talk about these vases. These are very on trend and people really love them, myself included. But here's the thing. Even if you cut your stems really super short, it might be a little challenging to have flowers that stay and don't topple over. When you have something that is this shallow, you need a mechanic that will hold the flowers in place. So if we think about a mechanic, think about, I need something that's going to hold flowers in place so they don't fall over or fall out of the vase, right? So we don't really think about that too much when we have a vase like this, but when we have something shallow, that's really important. So if you are a hobbyist or a flower lover and want to know a little bit more, you might want to strike out and buy some floral netting. It's basically chicken wire, but it has a coating so that way it can live in water and not rust. Usually it's a one-use type of thing. There's not a really good way to wash this and reuse it, but basically what you would do is basically crinkle it in on yourself. I have like a big large roll and I cut this with wire cutters. Again, another investment if you don't have wire cutters just hanging out at home. But you roll it into itself, and basically what we're making is different points that the stems can lean against, and then you place it into the vase like so. You also want to invest in some waterproof flower tape. Typically comes in green. A quick Amazon search will grab that for you. But again, you're gonna have this mechanic in place to really aid that flower stem staying where it wants to be. Obviously, if you're familiar with floral foam, it's those bricks of green kind of mesh mechanic that you stick the flower in and it stays. It's really lovely for those of you that are still learning the techniques of design. I will say they're not always the best with them being environmentally friendly. There are some that are biodegradable. So if that matters to you, something to explore when you explore flower foam. But again, for these shallow vases, you're gonna need another bit of help when it comes to getting flowers to look really good in this without falling or tumbling out. So we have this last vase, which I really love. It's really nice and wide, has a wide top. It's short though, so it's not a really tall vase here, and obviously it's not that much difference. But what we're creating, the difference here is I'm gonna have a more vertical design where I might have a more rounded design or one that's a little bit lower. So if you have a really big table, this is gonna look good and on your table because it's not too tall. But it has a more rounded effect, and we're going to have more coverage on a table if you use something that's kind of low and wide like this. Now think about when you buy flowers. Think about the vase that you have. How many flowers did you buy? You're going to need bigger flowers like a hydrangea or lots of roses or lots of carnations or ranunculus or greenery to fill this vase. It's big. It has a really wide top. So think about the top. If it's really wide, you're gonna need more flowers. If you want something that creates a lot of height, you either choose a taller vase like this, or you buy flowers that have a tallness to them, like a gladiola or a snapdragon. And so really think about when you look at your flowers, do I want to buy a lot of flowers? Because if not, this mason jar is going to do a lot with a little bit of flowers, or even this bud vase. Do you want to create a design that you love and you want to play around with this beautiful vase that you just got? Okay, well, you don't need a lot of flowers for this, but you will need the right mechanics to make sure that this works. And then for this, best thing I can teach you here is also with these guys, anything that has a wide or a wide round top, you want to make sure you break the line of the vase. We don't want to create where everything lives on top. We want everything to kind of also blend into the bottom. So think about greenery that hangs, is not completely upright. Think about your seated eucalyptus, maybe a vine, or think of a monstera leaf. It's nice and big, but it kind of drapes over. Now, we're not going to put a big monstera leaf on this, but I want you to kind of visualize the shape of that tropical leaf and kind of what it could do. But yeah, these are kind of the vases that you're going to find, whether it be underneath your sink like me, or if you're in the store and you're like, okay, well, what kind of vase do I actually need to buy? Or if you want to buy flowers, but you want it to look good, you need to kind of know what you have at home to create a really great design.